There's something powerful that happens when you learn how to stay quiet after being disrespected. That kind of silence doesn't come from weakness. It comes from growth, from maturity, from that holy place in you that knows you no longer have to entertain small energy when you carry a big calling. That kind of silence is spiritual. It's divine, and when you choose to stay quiet instead of retaliating, that's when heaven starts clapping for you. That's when you've passed a test that most people fail. Because the flesh wants to respond, the ego wants to stand up, the hurt wants to scream, but the spirit knows. God saw it, and God is getting ready to respond in a way that will silence every voice that ever tried to tear you down. It hurts, I know, when you love people, trust people, serve people, and they disrespect you. It's like a knife to the soul. It's not just what they said, it's the way they said it. It's not just what they did, it's the way they did it, like you didn't matter. And there's a fire in your chest that wants to rise up and demand your respect. But let me tell you something real. God does his best work in silence. He moves behind the scenes, and while they're out there running their mouths, he's rerouting your path to glory. You don't have to speak up when he's already speaking for you. You don't have to fight when he's already stepping in. That's why the next time they come for you, you stay quiet and watch what God does. People think silence is weakness, but real strength is knowing who you are so deeply that you don't need to prove anything to anyone. Real strength is when you could destroy their name, expose their lies, tell your side, but instead you say nothing. Because you know God will say everything that needs to be said. The evidence is in your elevation. The proof is in your peace. The apology you never got, God will make life deliver it to you in blessings. He's not just going to restore you, he's going to vindicate you in public. You think this silence is for now, but really it's for later. It's building a moment in time when even your enemies will have to acknowledge that God was with you. I'm talking to the person who stayed up all night crying because someone you gave your heart to tossed it aside like it was nothing. I'm talking to the one who held their tongue when lies were told, when your name was dragged, when your intentions were misunderstood. You stayed quiet, not because you didn't have something to say, but because you chose peace over pettiness. You chose growth over gossip, and I know it's lonely in that place. I know it feels like silence means defeat. But baby, that silence is your setup. That quiet space is where God is cooking up your comeback. And when he serves it, it will be undeniable. Don't let them pull you back into the noise. You've come too far. You've healed too much, and the level God is taking you to. You don't need baggage. You don't need bitterness. You don't need revenge. The same ones who disrespected you will watch God honor you. The same ones who tried to dim your light will have to squint because you're glowing now. He's preparing a table right in front of them, not to shame them, but to show them what grace looks like, what favor looks like, what happens when a person chooses character over chaos. Every time you choose silence over retaliation, you're telling the universe, I trust God more than I trust my emotions. You're saying, I know who I am and I don't need your validation. There's a divine confidence that comes with staying quiet when the world expects you to explode. And that kind of self-control is what ushers in breakthrough. That's when doors start opening. That's when your name starts coming up in rooms you've never walked into. That's when the tables turn and you realize God didn't just defend you, he promoted you. So keep your mouth closed and your heart open. Keep your spirit grounded and your vision focused. They may never admit they were wrong. They may never circle back with an apology, but you don't need their closure when God already gave you peace. You don't need their affirmation when heaven already approved your next move. Don't touch what God is about to handle. Stay quiet, stay still, stay focused, because what he's about to do, it will speak louder than anything you could have said. Just watch, just wait, just trust. There's a certain kind of strength that doesn't raise its voice, doesn't clap back, doesn't try to explain itself to people committed to misunderstanding it. That kind of strength doesn't show up in arguments or comebacks. It shows up in silence, a holy kind of silence, the kind of silence that can only come from someone who's been broken before but healed better, the kind of silence that doesn't mean defeat but discipline. It's easy to assume silence means you've lost your power, but real power isn't loud. Real power is controlled. It's knowing that you could respond and tear it all down, but you choose instead to hold your peace because you've come too far to let a moment drag you back to a version of you that no longer exists. Silence isn't weakness, it's wisdom. When you've seen what God can do when you get out of the way, you don't mind letting him take the front seat in moments that used to make you lose your mind. It's not that you didn't notice the disrespect. You felt every word, every tone, every sideways glance that tried to shrink you. You heard the rumors, caught the cold shoulders, saw the betrayal with your own eyes, but something in you shifted. You didn't respond like you used to. You didn't call them out, didn't raise your voice, didn't even try to correct the narrative, not because you didn't care, but because you finally realized that your peace is more valuable than being understood. You realized that God does more with your silence than you could ever do with your defense. That shift didn't happen overnight. It came from deep wounds, hard lessons, and moments you thought you wouldn't survive. But you did, and now you carry a quiet power, one that doesn't need the last word to win, one that knows that real growth shows up in how you handle disrespect without losing your dignity. When God starts working in your life, he doesn't always make noise about it. He moves in silence, just like you. That's why your silence after being disrespected is so aligned with his character. He doesn't need to prove anything to anyone, and neither do you. You've come to understand that silence isn't retreat, it's restraint. It's choosing not to engage in battles that God never assigned to you. It's recognizing that every time you try to fight for yourself, you might be stepping into a space that belongs to him. And when you're walking in purpose, you don't have time for petty. You don't have time to babysit opinions or manage impressions. You know who you are, and that's enough. There's a holy hush that comes over you when you've seen too much, felt too much, grown too much to keep letting temporary emotions wreck permanent promises. The disrespect used to unravel you. It used to make you question your worth, but now you see it for what it is. An attack sent to pull you out of position, but when you stay quiet, you stay covered. You stay in position, you keep your hands clean, and God handles what your flesh wants to fight. There's something about trusting him with your silence that activates heaven in your defense. It's like your silence speaks in the spirit louder than your words ever could in the natural. Your silence says, I trust you, God. I trust you to vindicate me, to protect me, to elevate me in due time. It's hard, though. Nobody said it would be easy to hold your tongue when someone disrespects you, especially when you know you didn't deserve it. There's a natural instinct to want to stand up for yourself, to make sure they don't get away with it. But that's the trap, that's the bait. That's the distraction the enemy hopes you'll bite, so he can drag you into a fight that will cost you your credibility, your peace, and sometimes even your future. The enemy doesn't just want your voice. He wants your vision. He knows that if he can keep you responding to things that don't deserve your attention, you'll delay the things that do. Silence after disrespect is about more than maturity. It's about mission. It's about deciding that your destiny is too important to let a moment of offense sabotage the move of God on your life. There's a reason why some of the most powerful moments in the Bible happened in silence. Jesus didn't respond to every accusation. He didn't defend himself before Pilate. He didn't argue with those who mocked him. And yet, he fulfilled purpose in silence. That kind of divine strategy is what God is calling you into. A space where your quietness confuses the enemy. A space where your lack of reaction becomes your protection. A space where your silence becomes the soil where God plants vindication, favor, and breakthrough. People won't understand it. They'll think you're weak. They'll think you're scared. They'll think you're passive. Let them think what they want, because while they're talking, God is working. While they're plotting, God is positioning. While they're disrespecting, God is directing. Your silence is a signal. It's a way of letting heaven know you're ready for God to take over. It's a spiritual posture that says, I'm done fighting battles that are beneath me. I'm done lowering myself to prove points. I'm done reacting to people who don't even know the weight I carry. You're in a new place now. A place where your response is your refusal to be pulled out of character. A place where you've realized that peace isn't just a prayer, it's a posture. It's a discipline. It's a daily decision to rise above and trust that God will do exactly what he said he would do. You don't have to prove anything to people who mishandled you when you were only trying to love them. You don't need to chase closure from the very ones who slammed the door on your dignity. Because here's the truth that sets your soul free. God saw it all. Every bit of it. The side eyes, the shade, the sarcasm hidden under fake smiles. The way they tried to dim your light because it revealed their own darkness. The silent envy that twisted into backhanded compliments. The rejection that wasn't loud, but was clear enough to cut. God didn't miss a second of it. While they were plotting behind your back, heaven was taking notes. While you were crying yourself to sleep wondering what you did wrong, God was already planning how he would make it right. There's something sacred about knowing that God is a witness to the things others try to cover up. He doesn't need a camera. He doesn't need a recording. He doesn't need receipts. He's omnipresent, which means he was in the room when you were dismissed. He was in the car when they talked about you. He was in the group chat when your name came up without your presence. That's why you don't need to run after justice in your own strength. When you know God saw it, you can rest in the confidence that he's not just watching, he's working. He's already ahead of you, making sure the disrespect they served doesn't disrupt the destiny he's prepared. It's hard, though. It's hard when you're sitting in silence and they're walking around like they did nothing wrong. It's hard to hold your tongue when the lies feel louder than the truth. It's hard not to clap back when your character is being painted by people who never really knew your heart. But in those moments, you've got to remember that you're not invisible to the one who matters most. God doesn't overlook your pain. He collects every tear. He hears the prayers you never prayed out loud. He reads the heartbreak that you learned to disguise with a smile, and when God sees, he responds. Not always on your timeline, not always in the way you expected, but always in alignment with his justice and mercy. The ones who think they got away with it are in for a surprise, because when God steps into a situation, there's no hiding, no pretending, no rewriting the truth. He doesn't need to embarrass anyone to exalt you. He doesn't need to expose them for you to be elevated, but he will bring everything into the light in his own way. And the same people who tried to diminish you will have to watch him distinguish you. The same mouths that tried to speak against you will be silenced when they see what God does for you. You won't have to explain yourself. You won't have to campaign for your name. God will do the unveiling, and he will do it with grace. Sometimes the greatest revenge is no revenge at all. It's watching God do what only he can do, redeem, restore, and reward. It's watching him shift the narrative without you ever saying a word. You don't have to beg for a seat at the table when God is building one with your name carved into the wood. You don't have to force anyone to see your value when the one who created you already said you were worth it. The very disrespect that tried to break you is about to be the stage where God showcases what he can do with a heart that stays humble, a spirit that stays still, and a soul that refuses to retaliate. It's tempting to keep replaying the moment in your mind, the conversation, the comment, the confrontation. You want to go back and say what you really meant to say. You want to stand in the mirror and rehearse the lines you wish you had delivered in the heat of the moment. But don't waste your energy. Don't water your garden with bitterness. Let God handle the things that are too heavy for your hands. He's not just watching over you. He's watching over his word concerning you. He promised to be your defender. He promised to prepare a table before you in the presence of your enemies. He promised that no weapon formed against you would prosper. And if he saw what they did, you better believe he's already made plans for what comes next. So when the disrespect echoes in your memory, when the sting of their words tries to creep back into your spirit, remind yourself that you are not alone. Remind yourself that nothing escapes his sight. You don't have to expose anyone. You don't have to clap back. You don't even have to keep revisiting what they did, because while they were being messy, God was being meticulous. While they were being cruel, God was being careful with your calling. He was weaving every painful moment into the fabric of your testimony. He was taking notes not to punish them, but to position you. Every act of dishonor they threw at you is now a seed in the soil of your next level. And when it grows, it will be undeniable that you didn't make it on your own, that you didn't fight your way to the top, that you didn't scheme or strive, but that God did what only he could do. There's a kind of maturity that shows up when you stop needing your emotions to validate your experience, when you no longer allow your feelings to dictate your response, and instead you let your fruit speak for you. You let your growth, your peace, your resilience be the evidence. You stop proving your worth and start living it. That's the moment you graduate from reacting to revealing, from trying to be heard to simply being seen by what God is doing through you. Because when you stop using your emotions as evidence and start letting your elevation be the proof, people won't have to wonder how you handled it. They'll see how God handled it for you. There are moments in life when your emotions feel justified. You want to defend yourself, correct the lies, speak up for what's right. And while there's nothing wrong with being passionate, there's something deeply powerful about holding yourself back and allowing your growth to do the talking. Your emotions may rise, but you don't let them lead, because you understand that elevation costs composure. The higher you go, the more silent you become. Not because you have nothing to say, but because what you're building is louder than your words. You don't need to announce who you are when your presence already speaks volumes. It's tempting to make emotional decisions in moments of offense. It's easy to type out a long message, hit send, and regret it later. It's easy to vent to the wrong person, to let bitterness brew in your spirit, to replay conversations over and over in your mind. But emotional decisions rarely build legacy. They feel good for a moment, but they cost you long term. That's why it takes spiritual discipline to say, I could respond, but I won't. I could defend myself, but I trust God to do it better. When you choose restraint over reaction, you're not suppressing your emotions. You're submitting them to a higher authority. You're saying, God, I feel this deeply, but I trust you more than I trust how I feel right now. People will underestimate you when you don't respond. They'll assume your silence is a sign of guilt or weakness or submission. But what they don't realize is that your silence is strategic. You're not silent because you don't have a voice. You're silent because you've learned the value of peace. You're silent because you've seen what happens when you let God fight for you. You've seen the doors he opens when you choose character over chaos. You've seen how he elevates you without explanation, how he vindicates you without you having to say a word. The people who disrespected you, misunderstood you, even mocked you, they won't be able to deny what God does with your life when you let your transformation speak louder than your tears ever could. Your emotions may not understand the assignment, but your spirit does. Your emotions want to react. Your spirit wants to rise, and that's the battle you face when you've been hurt. That's the tension you feel when you've been disrespected but called to remain composed. It's not easy to sit in silence when your heart is screaming. But in that very space, something divine is happening. God is building in you a strength that cannot be shaken. He's forming in you a wisdom that doesn't need to shout. He's preparing a version of you that responds differently because you've healed differently. And every time you choose to be quiet, not out of fear, but out of faith, you're allowing heaven to advocate on your behalf in a way that your emotions never could. Sometimes people don't need to hear your side. They need to watch your fruit. They need to see how you carry yourself. They need to see the peace you walk in, the joy that still fills your spirit, the grace with which you move forward, because that's what speaks. That's what silences every rumor, every accusation, every assumption. The more you mature, the less you defend, not because you're passive, but because you're planted, you're rooted, you're grounded in purpose. And when you're grounded, you're not shaken by shade, you're not rattled by rumors, you're not distracted by drama. You know that what God is doing in your life will eventually speak louder than anything you could say in your defense. Let your transformation be your testimony. Let the way you keep showing up even after betrayal be the evidence that God is real in your life. Let the way you keep serving, keep loving, keep rising be the proof that you don't need to defend yourself when God is the one who defends you. You are not what they said. You are not what they assumed. You are not even the version of yourself that reacted last time. You've evolved. You've grown. You've outgrown the need to prove anything. You're letting your healing tell the story now. You're letting your elevation preach the sermon. You're letting your peace be the loudest response to the chaos they tried to leave you in. So when disrespect tries to pull you back, when your emotions are begging to speak, when your heart wants to scream your truth into a room that already made up its mind, pause, breathe, remind yourself that your fruit speaks. Remind yourself that your discipline is your power, and trust that what God is building in silence is stronger than anything you could build in noise. Keep moving, keep rising, keep trusting. Let the evidence be your elevation. Let the result be your response. Let the favor on your life be the final word in the conversation they thought they won. There's a beautiful and powerful moment that happens when God decides to turn the tables on those who doubted you, disrespected you, or counted you out. It's a divine reversal that no human strategy can manufacture. It's not about revenge or bitterness, but about restoration and elevation. When you stay quiet after disrespect, you give God room to move in ways your words never could. You step back and allow him to orchestrate a scenario where the very people who tried to hold you down are forced to witness your rise. That moment isn't just sweet, it's sacred, because it shows that what God does cannot be stopped and that his timing is always perfect. When people disrespect you, it's often because they don't see your value or they feel threatened by your potential. They try to minimize your worth, to silence your voice, to keep you small, but God sees you differently. He sees the greatness inside of you even when others overlook it. He's already positioning you for the promotion, preparing the doors that no one can close, and setting the stage for your breakthrough. Your silence becomes the soil where his favor takes root. It's in that quiet place where God does some of his most miraculous work, turning what was meant for harm into the very thing that propels you forward. This divine turnaround is a testimony of faith and patience. It's a reminder that your response matters just as much as God's response. When you resist the temptation to retaliate, you protect the integrity of your journey. You keep your hands clean, your heart pure, and your mind focused on the bigger picture. You become a living example of what it means to trust God completely. And trust me, when he steps in, he doesn't just fix the problem. He flips the entire situation. The tables don't just turn, they spin. The story doesn't just change, it transforms, and you become a walking miracle in the eyes of those who wrote you off. There's a spiritual law that says the one who keeps quiet after disrespect invites divine intervention. Silence after offense isn't submission, it's a strategic move that signals, God, I'm letting you handle this. And God honors that faith. He moves in ways that are unexpected and undeniable. Suddenly, the people who mocked you are the ones who have to acknowledge your worth. Suddenly, the doors that were slammed in your face open wide. Suddenly, the respect you were denied becomes the very respect you command. This is not coincidence. This is God's providence at work. It's a supernatural exchange that can only happen when you stop trying to control the situation and start trusting the one who holds your future. What's even more remarkable is how God uses your story to inspire others. The same tables he turns for you become the testimony that encourages someone else to keep their faith. Your rise becomes a beacon of hope for those who feel overlooked and disrespected. Your story reminds them that silence doesn't mean defeat and that God's timing is worth the wait. You show them that the best revenge isn't tearing others down, but building yourself up with God's help. And that kind of testimony is powerful. It speaks louder than words. It's the kind of story people remember and share because it's real and it's victorious. You may not see the full picture right now. You may feel like the disrespect is permanent and the damage is irreparable, but God sees beyond what your eyes can perceive. He's already scripting your comeback. He's already making sure that the very people who underestimated you will have to recognize your success. When he turns the tables, it's not just about you. It's about his glory. It's about showing the world that no weapon formed against his children shall prosper. It's about demonstrating that he is a God who vindicates, who restores, and who elevates according to his perfect will. So when you're tempted to speak up or strike back, remember that your silence has power. Remember that your quietness has purpose. You're not ignoring the disrespect. You're investing in your destiny. You're not giving up your voice. You're giving God the opportunity to give you a platform that can't be ignored. And when God moves on your behalf, it's unmistakable. It's undeniable. It's a clear sign that he's working in your favor, even when the world seems to be working against you. The tables will turn, and when they do, the view will be unforgettable, not just for you, but for everyone who doubted you. In every moment of disrespect, in every silent hurt and unspoken pain, remember this. Your quiet isn't weakness. It's a powerful invitation for God to move. When you stay silent, you're not giving up. You're stepping back and trusting the one who sees everything, knows everything, and will do everything on your behalf. Your silence becomes the stage where God's justice, favor, and restoration take center spotlight. So hold fast to your peace, guard your heart, and keep walking forward with faith, knowing that what God does in the quiet far exceeds anything you could do in noise. Watch closely, because when he moves, it will be undeniable, unstoppable, and unforgettable.